Good Monday Matters. I hope you had a wonderful Sabbath and are looking forward to a new week and all that God has in store for you. My name is Mike Courtney, and this is Monday Matters. Every Monday, I take a few minutes and talk about something to make your life happier, healthier, and perhaps a little bit holier. I say every Monday. Actually, I usually do this on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. But this week, I didn't. It is really Monday morning. And the other thing I do on Monday morning is I go play tennis. So you are seeing me in all my tennis best. We try to start about 7:30 or 7:45 to beat the heat a little bit. We'll play for a couple hours outside. So that has absolutely nothing to do with Monday Matters. It's just explaining my appearance today. I started a couple weeks ago talking about some of the things that we believe about God, things that are I think, vitally important, and trying to build a case for each one of those things. And not so much build a case, but talk about the implications of each one of those things each week. And so with the first one was that God created everything. And out of that, we recognize that God's large and in charge, that he has a purpose for us, that good, bad, or indifferent. We start with God in all of that. He can make good out of everything. It doesn't mean he causes it, but he can make good out of everything. So today, the second premise is that God is a God of order. Most of these 8 or so ideas about God come out of really the first 3 or 4 chapters of Genesis. And I think all of them come out of the first 12 chapters of Genesis. The creation story, and if the creation story tells us anything, it tells us that God's a God of order. It begins by saying in chapter 2, the earth was formless and void, and the Spirit of God moved across the deep. And God said, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. God said, let there be light before he said, let there be plants. Plants aren't going to make it if there's light out there. So there's order. There's purpose to all of that. I mentioned something I know absolutely nothing about, which is not unusual for me. But I mentioned that that scientists tell us if the rotation of the earth, if the tilt of the earth was off by just 1 degree, that the earth would either spin out into space or it would be sucked into the fireball of the sun. And so everything is created with order. God is a God of order. Okay. Thanks for being here today. That's all I've got. I'll see you next week. Now, so what does that mean? What difference does that make? That's a wonderful discussion about the nature of God, but what difference does that make for us? Well, I jotted down about 6 things that come to mind. First of all, if that is true, and I believe that it is, then we function best when God is at the center. Just like the universe works by the sun being at the center and by the planets rotating around it, then we function best when God is at the center. My daughter-in-law Allison told me a story yesterday about Caleb, our 6-year-old grandson, and Allison was explaining to Amos, the 4-year-old, why the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening. And Caleb spoke up and said, Mommy, that's actually not true. The sun stays where it is. The earth is spinning around, and we see the sun differently. Where do these kids get these newfangled ideas? Yeah, there's order to this. And just like the sun is at the center of the universe, God needs to be the center of our life. And we function better. This is not just a spiritual thing. This is not love Jesus and go to heaven. My life is just better when God is at the center of it, in the center of my decision making and the center of my connections and relationships and all those things. We function better when God's at the center. Number 2, we need healthy rhythms in our lives. We as we get older, we take naps. We get up at the same time every day, go to bed at the same time every day. We do better with healthy rhythms in our lives. The Sabbath day is not just a recognition of the fact that God is in charge, but it's also our life is better by having that rhythm. Every 50 years will be a year of Jubilee. Every 7 years, there's a rhythm, and we do better when we have rhythms in our lives. Sometimes I call it rituals, to have rituals in place that I know that I do this at a given time. We need rhythms. If your life is out of rhythm, then right now I'm at a time where I'm working on some projects, so I'm trying to get it back in rhythm and put some things in place. Here's number 3. We also need healthy boundaries. We do better with boundaries. Have you ever watched a little child set in the middle of a huge place, a basketball court, or at first it's very unnerving, it's frightening. There's something in us that says we do better when we have boundaries around us. The 16th Psalm, one of my favorite verses, your boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. God has boundaries for you, and you do better when you stay inside those. Here's number 4, discipline is a good thing. There is something about being disciplined, about, a regular pattern of exercise, about daily devotions, there's something about just doing the thing for the sake of doing it, being disciplined. It's a good thing. God created us to function better when we have disciplines in our lives. Paul says, and I know he's talking about a spiritual being, but I think it applies. Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, I discipline my body and keep it under God. It's good to be disciplined. Here's number 5. Relationships are made for a reason. There's order in relationships. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Part of the reason for marriage is for us to demonstrate the love of God for us and the love of Christ for the church. And so there's reason for relationship. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. Demonstrate the love of God. You don't just enter into relationships, here's the theological term, willy-nilly or haphazardly. But God has a plan for your life, and that plan includes proper and appropriate relationships. Sex inside of marriage, not before marriage. There's a reason for all of that. God's a God of order. And then here's the very last one. It's probably going to cause the most trouble. But God is a God of creativity and not chaos. That means He wants us to have free wills and to create and to be expressed. But we don't just make this thing up as we go. We don't just say, here's the rules. God's rules don't apply. I'm setting my own rules. I don't know. I know I'm getting in trouble. I can be a dog if I want to be a dog. I can be a cat if I want to be a cat. No. We are to be creative, but not chaos. God is a God of order. And the system that He created functions so much more appropriately when it functions in order. So in your own life, if things are askew, if they are not functioning in a way that is fulfilling to you, if you're not living the abundant life, look at the order in your life. Put some disciplines in place. Set some boundaries. Get your relationships brought under the leadership of God. Put Him back at the center of your life. God's a God of order, and that changes everything for us. And that's why every Monday I do Monday Matters. See what I did there? Thanks for being a part of this. I'll post something each day this week about order, and I'll like and subscribe. You like and subscribe and give order to this madness. Have a great day.